for those of you that are new here, I'm Cindy, and I want to share a little bit about my journey from nursing into retirement. So I've been a nurse for 44 years. I graduated in 1981 with a 2-year diploma in nursing, and then when I was 38, can you believe it, I went back to university to finish my degree, and I graduated at 40. Very proud of that. First person in my family to go to college, and I was determined to prove to my kids that it can be done, right? So fast forward many years, single mom, 3 kids, working all the time. I worked in hospitals for probably 30 of those years. However, it wasn't all full time because then I moved into public health, infectious disease. And that was the best job I ever had. I loved it. But because I was a single mom and my former husband was not particularly involved and didn't make a lot of money, I didn't get much help. So for 15 years, I worked 7 days a week. You heard me, 7 days a week. And that takes a toll. That takes a toll physically, mentally, spiritually. I mean, to the point that I can remember when my kids were young, and they were all fairly close in age, 3 kids in 4 years, not my finest hour. I can remember getting off work on a Friday and dragging my heels to have to go pick them up at daycare or to have to come home when they got older because I didn't want to have to be home with them all by myself all weekend. Isn't that terrible? But the bigger issue is because I didn't get paid enough. I didn't get paid enough to be able to quit all these jobs. I live in Texas. Nurses here do not make 6 figures, not unless you are working a lot of overtime. And so I always had 2 and 3 jobs. And for a lot of my career, I worked 7 days a week, 15 years straight. So do you know what that does to a person? I mean, I had a torn meniscus and I still went to work on it until finally the pain was so bad I couldn't. And then when the surgeon told me, you've got to stay off this for 6 weeks, I cried because I didn't know what I was going to do. I did not know. And that was really hard because my whole family's well-being was in somebody else's hands. It was in somebody else's hands determining how much I'm worth to be paid. You know, if you don't work, you don't get paid. That's the way those PRN jobs are. And that was very harrowing. And I wasn't the mother that I wanted to be, and I wasn't the mother that I should have been or that my kids deserved. And it was all tied to money. So, you know, I moved into public health. The kids got older. They all go to college. They all move out. Well, the pandemic hit, and I was in infectious disease. So if you can imagine what that was like, I was working 6 days a week, 10-hour days, and I loved it until I started noticing a subtle shift. I didn't have any interest in things, the hobbies. I love to read. I like to walk. You know, couldn't go hang out with friends, right? Because our worlds were very narrow at that point. But I started losing interest in things, and I started gaining weight again. And I, at the end of it, was working from home 50% of the time, and I couldn't even drag myself from my bedroom in my pajamas to get online. I wasn't doing my best work. I wasn't the nurse that I know I was capable of. And even my kids said to me, Mom, you've got to figure something out. You've got to make a shift. You've got to get out. Well, I worked for local government, so yes, I do have a small pension, but I knew it wasn't enough for me to live on. And pensions are fixed, or mine is. There's never a cost of living. Well, that doesn't matter when your property taxes keep going up, the cost of goods and services, the cost of food, you know, when you got to buy a new car, when you got to put a new roof on. The pension board doesn't care about that. But I also knew I couldn't keep doing this. And I also didn't want my manager to come to me and say, Cindy, I think it's time that you start thinking about retirement. I didn't want to go out that way. I wanted to go on my terms, right? This was my whole life. This was my identity. Anybody else feel that way? Any other healthcare workers here? I know you understand what I'm talking about, right? Because this is the core of who we are. Yes, I'm a mother. Yes, I'm a woman of faith. Yes, I was a wife. but I'm still a nurse and I will always identify as a nurse, right? So I made the decision, the conscious decision, that I was going to have to retire. One way or the other, I was going to have to figure it out. But I just knew there was no way I could go back to direct patient care. There was no way that I could start working for somebody else. I don't want to punch a time clock, right? So I started looking. And you know what I found? I found that you can make money online. Because I'll tell you what, I watched my father, who retired fairly young, but then he just moved into working for my brother. He worked until he dropped at 86. He really had no retirement. He never had a chance to build hobbies. Okay, sure, maybe that was his choice, but it's not mine. It's not mine. I have a lot of things that I still want to do. I love to travel. I like to hang out with my kids. I like to hang out with my friends, and volunteering is very important to me. So I started looking online. And I was able to find a product that I did not have to build, because let me tell you what, this old gal is not tech savvy. Yeah, I can send an email. Yes, I can do a post on social media, but don't ask me to code. Don't ask me to build a blueprint. So I found a product that was already done for me. And the beautiful thing about it is, yeah, you can resell the product, but it teaches you so much more. It teaches you all the opportunities that are out there, because nurses, we have valuable skills. We have skills that are in demand. We know a lot of stuff, and people will pay for it. Think about learning guides. Think about health coaching, right? Nursing is supposed to be the #1 most trusted profession, even though we're not paid like it, but there is money to be made in the online space. So I started looking around, and I found a done-for-you product that when I purchased, I own the resale rights. I can resell this as many times as I want for the rest of my life. That's right, the rest of my life. One time I had to pay, and that was it. So with that product, I resell it, but again, I'm also learning other skills, high income producing skills. And the nursing skills that we have are also high income producing. Problem solving, critical thinking, organized, strategic, multitasking. The list goes on and on and on. So the online space is a perfect fit for healthcare workers, right? So now I've been retired just over a year and life looks so much different. Now I do have time freedom. I work a few hours a day and I'm done, right? I can work more on some days and less on others, but on average I work 2 hours a day. I can pay all my bills. I'm starting to dream again. I'm starting to think about what trips I want to take. Because at 64, my really good years of being able to do that things, they're less, right? And I don't want to look back when I'm 85 or 90 and say, man, I wished I'd gone to work again. I wished I'd gotten another job. No, I want to live life on my terms. I now have the freedom to volunteer when I want. I now have the freedom, if a friend calls me up and says, let's go for a drive, I can go. Because I'm not starting from scratch. I didn't have to start from scratch. So, you know, my next chapter looks a whole lot different than I thought it was going to. And for that, I'm extremely grateful. So if you're looking for your next chapter, or maybe you don't have any money put back for retirement, or no idea how you're going to be able to retire, or maybe you just need to quit that second job like I did, then go down in the description and grab that blueprint, okay? Now, I'm not saying that you have to do anything with it, but you owe it to yourself to at least get information, because there are options. And then make sure you tell me in the comments what other topics you would like me to cover.